my research focuses on strategies for working more effectively with culturally and linguistically diverse children and adolescents. And so years ago, I developed a counseling model on how we broach or bring up, discuss issues really related to race, ethnicity, and culture. In many counseling settings, people can talk about anything. They can talk about academics, they can talk about grief and loss, they can talk about death and dying, they could talk about career development, but people often have a difficult time talking about race, ethnicity, and culture. And so I've created a framework that allows counselors to talk about race, ethnicity, and culture with students. When we think about students from marginalized groups, if we only have a mainstream focus, we don't really understand what it means for a child to be an immigrant, what it means for a child to be a refugee, what it means for a child to come into a school setting and not to be fully accepted, to be asked to anglicize their names, to have parents who speak a language other than English, and to try to manage and maneuver in settings that aren't hospitable to non-English speakers. And so, how do we give children opportunities to talk about their experience, and not just so that they're venting, but so that our understanding will shape our ability to put in place those supports and interventions that will better help children survive.
But in San Jose, the school that I work at really believes in social justice as a way to connect with students. It's this like blending of constructivism and kind of like reform pedagogy that really puts students at the center of it. And because they're at the center of it, counselors are asked to serve the whole child. And that's where you see that difference, right? Like in a more traditional school, the expectation is that they raise children to become adults that are believing in similar things that the adults believed in. Where here, it's really about like, where is it that this child's at? Where is it that this child is really situated right now? And let's take that out and really connect them to the social justice work that's here in our community. And we have school counselors in different roles, right? And like official roles and non-official roles that really focus on understanding the whole child.
One success that I've experienced recently surrounding a social justice issue is advocating for our transgender students in PE, the PE locker room, and in PE activities. And so largely it was creating a system with our PE department and our office staff and school really to bring gender neutral changing areas for our students. And also we're still working on finding lockers for them to hold their space so that they don't have to carry around an extra duffel bag or exchange their clothes in the main office. So just kind of creating that seamless process and also communicating with families wherever their student was in terms of the coming out process and navigating that carefully as well while respecting each student's just identity exploration at this age.
The type of counseling that I do here, I'll come in and I might have a kid that's going through some stuff and I'll take them out of class and we'll go for a walk. We'll go sit under a tree and I'll have them connect with the earth. I'll have them take off their shoes and put their shoes on the earth and just to feel the energy before we even talk. Like I don't jump into what the problem is. I jump into their physical, you could see how someone feels in their body if they're like this or they're like this. I pay attention to those things.
School counselors can find success when they intentionally participate in building a system wherein school counselors can effectively advocate for social justice and equity for all students.
Be going through some things and that is rowdy, and I'll take them outside and I have boxing gloves and mitts, and we have a punching bag, and I'll take a kid and let them unleash on the punching bag until they feel. I've had a kid break down and cry while punching, and then we sit down and talk and they unleash, right? Or I'll take a kid and we'll go outside and we'll go for a jog around the block. And once they get those endorphins going, and it'll change their whole mood because they're stuck sitting down all day and they're not getting their heart rate up, they're not in touch with their body. it messes with our head. So for me, I do a lot of things like that. Physical, I also will sit down and have a kid lie down and I'll play some singing bowls and meditate and guide them through a meditation, because there's so many different ways and not everything works for every kid. Sometimes kids, I'll be like, hey, so what do you want to do? I just need a walk. Or we'll go to the bridge over there and there's a moving body of water and we'll just stand in front of that moving body of water without even saying a word, and the kid will look up at me and go, I feel better. And then we'll just walk back to class. So, I mean, there's so many different ways to get in touch with these youth, and especially we need to look at these different ways, especially these days because times are so different. These kids are stuck on their phones. They're not getting 1 ounce of affection. Some of them aren't. When they get home, they go to their room and they're just in there for hours, and then they come to school with all this emotion, and then they act out, and then we think they have a problem. They don't have the problem. It's what's going on in their life that's the problem. So I highly recommend thinking outside of the box and using every tool in your arsenal, because these kids need you and they need a lot more love than they're receiving.
They have a story that contributed to who they are. And if I'm privileged to be invited into their story and to play a small role, what an honor, right? And so being respectful of that and knowing that the individual in front of you is really the expert on themselves, right? And so instead of making assumptions, many times rooted on stereotypes, right? It's like, no, let me ask my student, respect who they are. And I want to know more about that so that together we can move in whatever direction they feel that they want that conversation to go, or how to access that service that they're looking for.
I've had a lot of opportunities to advocate for students and family for social justice. I've taken kids on marches. I've taken kids on a 500-mile Native American spiritual marathon, where we run for different things that are going on in the indigenous communities, those injustices, and also for Mother Earth. And those ones are the biggest ones for me. I like to teach kids about what we're doing to Mother Earth. And I think if they can connect with the planet that we live on and see the injustices that we're doing to Mother Earth, that it'll change the way they look at themselves, because there's only one planet, there's only one us, so that connection is huge, I think. So I like to really connect them to that, so they can go out after this. I mean, this is middle school, so they have tons of life left. I want to see them go out and make a change and give back to this planet, because Mother Earth has given us so much.
Overall, I just want to see school counselors not working in isolation, right? School counselors working together with teachers. So, and again, right, that it's a two-way road, right? It's easier said than done, right? Because that's going to take an effort from the teacher's perspective as well, too. But just closing us in on the loop and just kind of working together when it comes to social justice.
One strategy used by some school counselors is to effectively align social justice goals with the goals of the school.
The best way for people who might feel like, I don't know where to start, or I've tried a little bit and I get a lot of pushback and I don't want to lose my job and I don't know what to do next, is to look at the school improvement plan and think about what are the goals of your school, what are the goals of your administrator, and how will changing these inequities actually support that goal. So I feel like, every administrator wants their students to do well and wants students to succeed, wants grades to be higher and attendance to be higher and discipline to be down. So if we can really reframe it in a way that's like, this is what our students need to reach these goals that you have for them, I think that can be a really great entry point, particularly for beginning work, to start some movement. And then once you get some kind of initial response going, then, and you build your political capital within the school, because if you're new to the profession or new to the school, you have to sort of build that trust that people have in you and build your political capital, like amongst your colleagues, that then you have a little bit more capacity to start pushing against things that might be a little bit trickier for people to respond to.
Luckily at this school, the principal has given me a lot of freedom. And especially if it has to do with our kids here, I can pretty much go at bat with a full arsenal for these kids, and I'm allowed to, which is amazing because I know a lot of other schools have a lot of red tape. And if it comes to our kids here, we treat them like our family, and we really care deeply. I mean, I'll call home. I have kids that text me on the weekends that send me messages and things that they're going through and they need advice. I'm always available for them. And I know at some other schools that would be a taboo, but I feel like these kids, they need someone that's there 24/7 because sometimes they don't have anybody.